So when responding to a call, NYPD officers can sometimes find themselves in some very tense and unusual situations.
But there's one group they can depend on to help resolve the problem, and Fox 5's Dan Bowen, he's over there. He's checking things out for us this morning. What's going on, Dan?
Well, good morning, Rosanna and Bianca. They are the skilled negotiators who respond in the most dangerous and unpredictable situations. The NYPD Hostage Negotiation Team is tasked with defusing tense standoffs and bringing hostages home safely. Now there's a new podcast detailing how this unit came together 50 years ago.
Good evening. An angry man walked into the World Trade Center this morning. He claimed that he was carrying a hand grenade and a cart full of dynamite.
It's July 1978, Tower 2 of the World Trade Center, the 36th floor. A man claiming to have 80 sticks of dynamite takes 4 people hostage.
Anybody that came to the room, he shut the door. He wouldn't let you out. I tried to get out. He closed the door.
The entire building evacuated, heavy artillery brought in, and so is the NYPD Hostage Negotiation Team.
You don't know if the dynamite is real, but you really can't take the chance.
10 hours go by. Negotiators keep the man talking. Eventually, his captors and police overpower him. Everyone walked away safely. Turns out there was no dynamite.
Situations can become very, very chaotic very, very quickly. They're always extremely high pressure.
Ed Conlon is a former detective, best-selling author, and host of the new podcast from the department called Talk to Me, detailing the important history of the NYPD Hostage Negotiation Team.
Because it's the least cop-like cop story. You stay there and try and make sure nothing happens. You try and solve problems by talking.
And in 1972, when the team was formed, that approach to policing went completely against the norm.
There was no psychological or psychiatric research on hostage situations.
3 specific incidents from 1972 made New York police brass want to establish new strategies. First, the deadly Attica prison riots.
There were 40 people killed. The negotiations were disastrous.
Next, the international hostage crisis and failure at the Munich Olympics.
All 11 Israeli hostages were killed, and the German police just didn't have a SWAT team.
And a very famous bank robbery in the city.
New Yorkers witnessed a bizarre bank robbery. It lasted 2 days, involved 9 hostages.
It came to define the gritty and desperate nature of New York in the 1970s and inspired the iconic Al Pacino movie Dog Day Afternoon. All of it motivating the NYPD to tap a patrolman on staff who also happened to be a PhD clinical psychologist named Harvey Schlossberg. He called his new negotiation tactics dynamic in action.
Harvey took some basic concepts on frustration and conflict and anxiety and said, let's try and deal with those as fast as we can.
The NYPD's new team would set a national standard, and legendary cop Frank Bowles was the first commanding officer.
Anytime that all of the hostages are brought out alive, that's a success.
The approach and methods still embraced today, highlighted in a few high-profile cases. In 2021, a man with a shotgun outside the United Nations. Negotiators eventually convinced him to put the gun down. And a case in 2020, 2 armed ex-felons taking a family hostage in Queens. Negotiators eventually coaxed them out with patience and some pizza.
Once we got their emotions down, the two perpetrators inside, they started thinking rationally and they wanted food.
Lieutenant Michael Tomeo is now commanding officer of the team. He says that premise is still what negotiators say to people on the other end of the line. Talk to me.
They're going a mile a minute, they're yelling, they're screaming. As negotiations go on, they start talking slower, they start talking longer to us, they start making more sense, that their feelings, they start opening up with their feelings, and that's when we know it's going in the right direction, that we're making an impact on them, and we're going to be able to get them out safely.
The Talk to Me series is now available on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. There are more than 20 episodes out already. If you only think you have time to listen to a few, I strongly recommend the episodes detailing one of the unit's first big cases. 1973, 4 men robbed John and Al's sporting goods store out in Brooklyn. It was a very tense situation there. The lieutenant also tells me there are about 190 negotiators on staff at the NYPD right now. Many are detectives who also work everyday cases but are called into action when there is a hostage crisis. Roseanne and Bianca?
And we thank them.
Yeah.
It's
And
tough work.
What's very interesting, I actually met one of the lieutenants at a sporting event. They're at every single sporting event just in case that happens.
Really?
Yeah.